Hello everyone, my name is Dorian and welcome to Road America. We are with the LMP2 doing IMSA and I'm just going to show you guys the lap real quick and then we're going to go over it corner by corner. If you enjoyed, leave a like, and if you want to see more track guides and race videos, then subscribe to the channel as well. Now, I'm using Doc's setup. Full disclaimer, he sells those for $1. There's a link to his Discord in the description below. You can buy it off him through PayPal. And if you do, I get something out of it as well. So if you need a setup here, that's a great way to support the channel. And, you know, as far as the setup is concerned, it's very much on the safe side. Very easy to put the power down, and it's very enjoyable. I really like driving it here. It's a very competitive time as far as I've seen. I've tried to compare it to other services, so it should be pretty good. That's it. See you guys on the track. Okay, so we're coming up to turn number 1. We're going to look for a braking point. It's going to be right at the halfway point between the 3 and 1. So let's call it the 2 cone, the invisible 2 cone. And I'm going to peak very, very high because I want to downshift all the way from 6th into 3rd very quickly. And I'm going to release the brakes very quickly as well because I already have to initiate the turn-in. The turn-in point is pretty much the 1 cone, maybe slightly past it. As I cross it, I'm going to start to turn in the car and release more and more of the brakes, bleeding it off all the way into trail braking. And I'm looking for a very early apex here where I'll put a lot of the car, most of the car, on the right-hand curb. And I'm going to hug it the whole way through. I'm going to stay right on it. Don't clip this part of the dirt. Just be as close to it as you dare. As you can see, because I was so close to the inside here, I'm already back on the power. I'm releasing trail braking. Should release my brakes altogether at this point, so I stayed on around 5% for a little bit. And squeezing more and more out of it, starting with around 50% and squeezing it all the way back to 100. There's a nasty little bump here. You want to give it plenty of power to kind of survive it without getting the car too upset. So around 90%. As the car lands and settles down, I'm going to open up the wheel slightly and go back to 100%. Let the car run wide, use the curb on the way out, about 50% of the car, I would say. Any more than that might be a problem, might upset the car, and you could get an off track on the exit. Now, turn number 2, we're going to brake right between the 2 and the 1, so I will call that the 150. As you can see, there's a white line on the road here. This guy is my friend because I only have a single screen. What you see is what you get here, so I need the line on the road to tell me where I'm at. So right past it, I'm going to start braking. We'll call this the 1.5. And I'm going to downshift again pretty quickly all the way down into 3rd. And then I'm going to wait a little bit before I downshift into 2nd just to keep the car stable. The rear end does like to snap out if you downshift too quickly into the corner here. And you're going to see that in the next corner as well. I peaked at around 90%, but already at this point I'm around 50. And I'm going to start to turn in and downshift again just now into 2nd, looking for a very early curb. trail braking into it. I want to put the car as early as I dare on the curb as much as I can. And as you can see, I'm already back on the power at this point because I have so much grip here. It's not a problem. Around 50%, the setup is very stable, so you can be pretty aggressive. 50%, then squeezing it all the way back to 100% as I open up the wheel, about 2/3 out of the corner, back to 100, and letting the car go to the outside, wash out just a little bit, open up the wheel, and you're through. This point on, you just want to hug the inside here to take a nice short route, and we're looking for a braking point that's going to be right before the 2. So anywhere between the 3 and the 2 is the right braking point. The 2.5 with cold tires is what, and a heavier car is what I would recommend. And as the race progresses, closer and closer to the 2. If you're drafting, if I was drafting here, I would brake a little bit earlier than this, even with a cold, with a warm car and everything. So around here, again, peaking extremely high, 100%. And releasing it very, very quickly. You can't stay on it for any longer because it will lock up the tires, either the fronts or the rears. You're gonna have a problem. So you really gotta slam it and release it very quickly. As you can see, I'm staying at around, I would call this 80% for a while because I do have to slow the car down. I'm carrying a lot of speed into this corner. It's a very low speed corner. And I'm going downhill, so I have to stay on brakes for as long as possible. I was slamming it just to break off some speed and already released it to around 80%. And now I'm going to release it more and more. Now our turn-in point is right at the end of this black sign here. And I'm going to initiate the turn-in second gear. So I just downshifted into second, already at around 45% brakes. Letting the car go all the way to the curb here. You can utilize it to maximize your approach. And initiating the turn-in very gently. I'm not trying to flick the car in at any point. The tires are boiling hot. You want to try to avoid that. Be as smooth as you can on the entry here. Staying in second to make sure the back end doesn't kick out. It really does help. And I'm going to downshift into first pretty late, right around here. So right before the apex. And I'm going to start to accelerate right after I reach the apex. I'm letting the car go neutral for a little bit. And as I open up the wheel, and I can see I cross the halfway point of the corner, back on the power, squeezing it very gently at first. And as I straighten out the wheel, I'm slamming it because the RPM is pretty low. And I can catch it pretty easily because I got this runoff here. Using all of it on the way out, and you're through. Now, this is a very tricky corner for this car. It's very important to brake early and softly. You don't want to slam the brakes at any point. So we're going to brake, let's call this at the beginning of this last radical sign here. And I would say around 55% peak from third into second. And I'm going to initiate the turn-in quite early, as you can see right around here. And gonna be very, very gentle with it to prepare the right tires for a lot of weight that I'm gonna put on them. So as you can see, it sort of, you're going uphill, then it straightens out, and the car gets light as you do. So you really want to avoid flicking the car in because you will lose the rear end, especially on cold tires. Releasing more and more of the brakes, bleeding it off all the way into trail braking. Look at how gentle it is at this point. Second gear, looking for the curb, and as I get on the curb, I'll go neutral for a little bit. I'm just trying to find a good point of acceleration, which is right around here. I got as much as the curb as I can. I'm eating as much as the curb as I can, and starting to squeeze more and more out of the throttle very gently. And only now I'm back at 100%. So you can see it's all about your throttle implementation. You got to be very smooth on your inputs here. Letting the car run wide, opening up the wheel, using the curb on the way out, but as much as you can use without getting off track right here on the exit. You don't want to put your wheels here. And from this point on, I'm gonna line up the car to the left. Very simple corner for this car. Stay flat, upshift into third as you reach the into fourth. Sorry, as you reach the apex. Let the car run wide, and you're through. Let's look for a braking point here. It's gonna be right before the 2. Let's see exactly where. So right around here. I don't like braking too late here because it's very easy to lose the rear end on entry. And it kind of happened to me here. I had to correct it a little bit. Again, slam the brakes, but very quickly I'm releasing them all the way down into second gear. And I was gonna start to turn in left here. I could feel the rear end kind of giving up. So I straightened out the wheel again just before the turn in, which is right around here, this white line right here on the road. And as I cross it, I'm gonna start to initiate a lot of turn in and release the brakes. I'm looking for the inside curb here. It dips down, it sucks you in, doesn't let you slide too wide here. I really want to utilize it, and because I know it's going to suck me in, I'm very, very early on the power. I'm using second gear, so the RPM is very low. The car doesn't have anything in the bottom end. So when you do that, you have to find a point where you're very early on the power. You got to get back on it as soon as possible. So already at 50% on the apex and squeezing it. A little bit of modulation here, trying to avoid the back end, the kick out, or the understeer. Opening up the wheel back to 100%, right on the curb, using as much as I can without, you can clip the dirt here just a little bit, wouldn't be too much of an issue. And you're through. Line the car up to the left here for the carousel. I'm using it, I'm treating it as a double apex, so I want to get an early apex here. It's gonna be, let me find a point. There's a point in the line here, the white line. There it is, right here. So you can see it goes smoothly here. It's very circular, and at this point, it kind of breaks off. This is sort of my first apex. So as I can see it clearly, as the car is pointed towards it, I'm gonna release the throttle and dab the brakes just a little bit. I have upshifted into fourth. The reason for that is because I don't want the car to push the front tires as much under acceleration. So fourth gear kind of works better for me. You can take it in third. Experiment with that. I'm trail braking a little bit because I hate going wide here. I don't even like to take it from the middle. I want to stay on the right the whole way through. It works better for me. To each his own. I know people, some people like to take it from the outside and works better for them. A little bit of neutrality here, just letting the car float a little bit, and I'm already back on the power, and I'm using the throttle to kind of mitigate the understeer or create a little bit of oversteer every time. So if I want to stab it, just to rotate the rear end. If I want to lift, it's just to kind of mitigate the understeer. So you can see I'm modulating it a little bit. I'm not committed to 100% at all. And only at this point where I'm very close to the inside, after the halfway point, I'm already back on the 100%. I got all this rubber here, all this camber, and the best way to know you're safe on the exit and you're not going to run wide is that you're close to the beginning of this curb on the exit. If you're close to it, you can just floor it, you can slam it, not a problem. Letting the car go wide, not too wide though. There's between this curb and this curb, the red and yellow and the gray one, there's a bump. I don't like it, so I try to avoid it. And you're through. Very simple flat out corner, just use all of the road. Very easy stuff. Upshift into sixth after I finish it. And this point on, I'm gonna kind of treat this double left-hander as a double apex. So I'm getting close, going to the outside and getting close again so I can line the car up nice and straight for the braking point. If you stay on the inside the whole way through, you're gonna have a tendency to run a little wide here on the exit, and it's gonna hurt you when you try to maximize your approach for the next corner. As you can see, I'm still quite far from the white line. I'm gonna try to squeeze into it as I brake. We're gonna brake right before the 3. And again, I'm slamming the brakes and releasing very quickly. Downshifting all the way down into second gear. My turn-in point is right past the 1. And again, I'm gonna prepare the left tires for a lot of weight. So I'm just gonna turn in very slowly. Let it build up. Instead of just flicking it in and losing the rear end or getting understeer. Looking for the curb on the way in with a little bit of trail braking. At this point, I'm already neutral because I can see I'm about to mount it. I don't want to clip the dirt, just the red and yellow part. And back on the power to kind of carry me away from it so I don't steer too much into the corner. Around 40% at first, squeezing more and more as I straighten out the wheel, and back to 100% as I know I'm safe. I got all this runoff and I'm definitely going to use it on the way out. Don't clip this part too much. It is an off track. And I'm just going to take this part slowly. So you want to use all of the road, stay flat, If you're drafting, maybe lift just a tiny bit, won't cost you too much time. Definitely don't run off here. There's a very nasty bump that's going to give you floor damage. And line the car up to the left. We're going to brake diagonally to the outside. So as soon as we reach the color, the tarmac variation here, it's a different surface. You can see it very clearly. As we cross it, we're going to start braking. Not peaking very high. The car has a tendency to lock up here. So around 80%, 75%, and releasing it gradually and quite quickly into the outside, using a little bit of the curb on the entry here. As you can see, I'm trying to use as little steering as possible while I'm braking, just to make sure I can carry good speed without locking up. And I'm going to start to turn in. My real turn-in point, I would say, is after this white line. So I'm only straightening out the car at this point. I'm going to really start to turn in the car on that white line. Trail braking, looking for a very early apex, because that's going to allow us to go back to the power very, very early, which is what you want, very big straight up ahead. Now, looking for the apex, already at around 55% throttle at this point. As I fully mount it, I'm going to straighten out the wheel and back to 100% from this point on. This is in second gear, by the way. Then the car go all the way to the outside, and we're through. That's going to give us a 149.196. I hope you guys enjoyed this track guide. If you did, please leave a like. If you want to see more track guides and, race videos, then subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support the channel, then you can buy this setup for $1 from Doc. There's a link in the description below for his Discord. You can buy it there through PayPal. It's very safe. That's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.